Hey y'all, how y'all doing? Back with another one. We going to our book, The 48 Laws of Power. This is Law 12. Yep. And I kind of like this one. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. I like that. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. And this is a short chapter. I really like that too. Sometime in 1926, a tall, dapperly dressed man paid a visit to Al Capone, the most feared gangster of his time. Speaking with an elegant continental accent, the man introduced himself as Count Victor Lutzwin. He promised that if Capone gave him $50,000, he could double it. Capone had more than enough funds to cover the investment, but he wasn't in the habit of entrusting large sums to total strangers. He looked the Count over. Something about the man was different. His classy style, his manner, and so Capone decided to play along. He counted out the bills personally and handed them to Lutzwood. Lutzwood left with the money, put it in a safe deposit box in Chicago, then headed to New York, where he had several other money-making schemes in progress. The $50,000 remained in the bank box untouched. Lutzwood made no effort to double it. 2 months later, he returned to Chicago, took the money from the box, and paid Capone another visit. He looked at the gangster's stony-faced bodyguard, smiled apologetically, and said, "Please accept my profound regrets, Mr. Capone. I'm sorry to report that the plan failed. I failed." Capone slowly stood up. He lowered at Lutzwood, debating which part of the river to throw him in, but the Count reached into his coat pocket, withdrew the $50,000, and placed it on the desk. "Here, sir, is your money to the penny. Again, my sincere apologies. This is more embarrassing. Things didn't work out the way I thought they would. I would have loved to have doubled your money for you and for myself. Lord knows I need it, but the plan just didn't materialize." Capone sat back in the chair and confused. "I know you're a con man, Count," said Capone. "I knew it the moment you walked in here. I expect either 100,000 or nothing. But this, getting my money back, well, again, my apologies, Mr. Capone," said Lutzwood as he picked up his hat and began to leave. "My God, you're honest," yelled Capone. "If you're on the spot, here's 5 to help you along." He counted out $5,000 out of the $50,000. The Count seemed stunned, bowed deeply, mumbled his thanks, and left, taking the money. The $5,000 was what Lutzwood had been after all along. Damn, that's good. Count Victor Lutzwood, a man who spoke several languages and prided himself on his refinement and culture, was one of the great con artists of modern times. He was known for his audacity, his fearlessness, and most important, his knowledge of human psychology. He could size up a man in minutes, discovering the weaknesses, and he had radar for suckers. Lutzwood knew that most men build up defenses against crooks and other troublemakers. The con artist's job is to bring those defenses down. One sure way to do this is through an act of apparent sincerity and honesty. Who would distrust a person literally caught in the act of being honest? Lutzwood used selective honesty many times, but with Capone, he went a step further. No normal con man would have dared such a con. He would have chosen his suckers for his meekness, for that look about them that says they will take their medicine without complaint. Capone and you would spend the rest of your life afraid. But Lutzwood understood that a man like Capone spends his life mistrusting others. No one around him is honest or generous, and being so much in the company of wolves is exhausting, even depressing. A man like Capone yearns to be the recipient of the honest or generous gesture, to feel that not everyone has an angle or is out to rob him. Lust would act of selective honesty disarm Capone because it was so unexpected. A con artist loves conflicting emotions like these, since the person caught up in them is so easily distracted and deceived. Do not shy away from practicing the law on Capones of the world. With a well-timed gesture of honesty and generosity, you will have the most brutal, cynical beast in the kingdom eating out of your hand. The essence of deception is distraction. That is good. Distracting the people you want to deceive gives you the time and space to do something they won't notice. An act of kindness, generosity, or honesty is often the most powerful form of distraction because it disarms other people's suspicions. It turns them into children, eagerly lapping up any kind of affectionate gesture. In ancient China, this was called giving before you take. The giving makes it hard for the other person to notice the taking. It is the device with infinite practical uses. Bravely taking something from someone is dangerous even for the powerful. The victim will plot revenge. It is also dangerous simply to ask for what you need, no matter how politely. Unless the other person sees some gain for themselves, they may come to resent your neediness. Learn to give before you take. It softens the ground, takes the bite out of the future request, or simply creates a distraction. And the giving can take many forms: an actual gift, a generous act, a kind favor, an honest omission, whatever it takes. Selective honesty is best employed on your first encounter with someone. We are all creatures of habit, and our first impression lasts a long time. If someone believes you are honest at the start of your relationship, it takes a lot to convince them otherwise. This gives you room to maneuver. Jay Gould, like Al Capone, was a man who distrusted everyone. By the time he was 33, he was already a multimillionaire, mostly through deception and strong arming. In the late 1860s, Gould invested heavily in Erie Railroad, then discovered that the market had been flooded with a vast amount of phony stock certificates for the company. He stood to lose a fortune and to suffer a lot of embarrassment. In the midst of this crisis, a man named Lord John Gordon offered to help. Gordon, a Scottish lord, had apparently made a small fortune investing in railroads. Upon investigation, Gould found out that Gordon's real name was John Cronsonfield, and that he was a bastard son of a merchant seaman and a London barmaid. There had been many clues before then that Gordon was a con man, but his initial act of honesty and support had so blinded Gould that it took the loss of millions for him to see through the scheme. A single act of honesty, oh my God, hush. A single act of honesty is often not enough. What is required is a reputation for honesty built on a series of acts. But these can be quite inconsequential. Once this reputation is established, as with first impressions, it is hard to shake. Honesty is one of the best ways to disarm the weary, but it is not the only one. Any kind of noble, apparently selfless act will serve. Perhaps such act, though, is one of generosity. Few people can resist a gift, even from the most hardened enemy, which is why it is often a perfect way to disarm people. A gift brings out the child in us, instantly luring our defenses. Although we often view other people's actions in the most cynical light, we rarely see the Machiavellian element of a gift, which quite often hides ulterior motives. It sure do. It sure do. That's a fact. A gift is the perfect object in which to hide a deceptive move. That is so true. That is so true. Selective kindness should also be part of your arsenal for deception. For years, the ancient Romans had besieged the city of Phasalines, always unsuccessfully. One day, however, when the Roman general Camillus was encamped outside the city, he suddenly saw a man leading some children toward him. The man was a Phasaline teacher, and the children, it turned out, were the sons and daughters of nobles and wealthiest citizens of the town. Camillus did not take the children hostage. He stripped the teacher, tied his hands behind his back, gave each child a rod, and let them whoop him all the way back to the city. The gesture had an immediate effect on the Phasacians. Had Cornelius used the children as hostages, some in the city would have voted to surrender. And even if Phasalines had gone on fighting, their resistance would have been half-hearted. Camillus' refusal to take advantage of the situation broke down the Phasacians' resistance, and they surrendered. The general had calculated correctly, and in any case, he had nothing to lose. He knew that the hostage exploit would have not ended the war, at least not right away. By turning the situation around, he earned his enemies' trust and respect, disarming them. Selective kindness will often break down even the most stubborn foe. Aiming right for the heart, it corrodes the will to fight back. Remember, by playing on people's emotions, calculated acts of kindness can turn a component into a gullible child. As with any emotional approach, the tactic must be practiced with caution. If people see through it, their disappointed feelings of gratitude and warmth will become the most violent hatred and distrust. Unless you can make the gesture seem sincere, heartfelt, do not play with fire. When you have a history of deceit behind you, no amount of honesty, generosity, or kindness will fool people. In fact, it will only call attention to itself. Once people have come to see you as deceitful, to act honest all of a sudden is suspicious. In these cases, it's better to play the role. Count Lustig, pulling the biggest con of his career, was about to sell the Eiffel Tower to an unsuspecting industrialist who believed the government was auctioning it off for scrap metal. The industrialist was prepared to hand over a huge sum of money to Lustig, who had successfully impersonated a government official. At the last minute, however, the mark was suspicious. Something about Lustig bothered him. At the meeting in which he was to hand over the money, Lustig sensed his sudden distrust. Leaning over to the industrialist, Lustig explained in a low whisper how low his salary was, how difficult his finances were, on and on. After a few minutes of this, the industrialist realized that Lustig was asking for a bribe. For the first time, he relaxed. Now he knew he could trust Lustig, since all government officials were dishonest. Lustig had to be real. The man forked over the money. By acting dishonest, Lustig seemed the real McCoy. In this case, selective honesty would have had the opposite effect. As the French diplomat Talleyrand grew older, his reputation as a master liar and deceiver spread. At the Congress of Vienna, he would spin fabulous stories and make impossible remarks to people who knew he had been lying. His dishonesty had no purpose except to cloak the moments when he really was deceiving them. One day, for example, Talleyrand said with a sincerity, in business, one ought to show one's hand. No one who heard him could believe their ears. A man who never once in his life has shown his cards was telling other people to show theirs. Tactics like this made it impossible to distinguish Talleyrand's real deceptions from his fake ones. By embracing his reputation for dishonesty, he preserved his ability to deceive. Damn, by being honest. Wow. Nothing in the realm of power is set on stone. Overt deceptiveness will sometimes cover your tracks, even making you admired for the honesty of your dishonesty. Wow, that's chapter 12. But let me see. Oh, shoot. Hold on, I forgot to bring this up. This law suggests it's a calculated use of honesty. Like a sincere act or well-timed act can lower a person's guard. So being honest can do that, making them more susceptible to deception and manipulation. I know, you know what, and we do this all the time, just being ourselves, being honest, and not even having an ulterior motive, but we do this, but we can use it to be deceptive. A single act of apparent trustworthiness can create an opening in their defenses, allowing you to achieve your objectives. Damn, that's good. The core idea is use honesty or generosity in a calculated way to disarm your opponent. By lowering someone's defenses through an unexpected display of trustworthiness, you create an opportunity to deceive or manipulate them more effectively. A timely gift or act of sincerity can function as a Trojan horse, concealing a more deceptive purpose. That is so good. A sincere gesture can make an opponent more likely to trust you. Then you can go in for the kill. This law is useful when you need to overcome the resistance of a suspicious person. All right, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment.